And we're back. You already know the vibes. Another day, another 2 a.m. session, sadly, right before work as usual, but it is what it is. You know, we've got another video on our hands. And this one, as you can see from the title, we're actually going through how and why it hold on. Teach me how to hey, some of these royalty beats are hard. But yeah, besides the point, today we're going through basically how exactly I managed to do a coding problem a day, and also why would I do a coding problem a day now that I've got a job, and a good job, mind you. I'm very comfortable, but yeah, I think it's something that everyone needs to adopt, and I think there's a lot of ways you can make it easy on yourself to make this a daily habit. So let's dive in, shall we? Let's see. Let me just... There's always some technical difficulties. Like that. Yep. Classic. We'll be back shortly after the break. Why am I upside down? I guess you can just listen to the music in the meantime. Droid cam. Lit horizontally. Aha! We're going somewhere. Slowly but surely, and then change the screen that's sharing. There we go. We're back. We're back. All right, guys. So now this is what I want to show you. What was I going to show you first? Okay, let's start off with the why. I'm just gonna turn. Yeah, let's start off with why exactly would someone I think I'm gonna enter whiteboard mode. All right, now that we're back, so why exactly would someone who's got a job, and maybe even someone that doesn't have a job, but let's focus on, okay, so why exactly would someone who has a job want to do a coding problem a day, right? You've done all your Leetcode, you've prepped, you've gotten to the stage where you've gotten the place that you wanted, so this isn't something you use in work, right? Wrong, that's incorrect. So I'm going to show you exactly why. So why punish yourself with Leetcode? That's the topic of today's lecture. So first and foremost, I'm sure the one you probably understand is that being on top of your game with coding problems. Sorry, I've already referred to coding problems as Leetcode, but I'm sure if you're an engineer watching this, they're quite synonymous. As that's the platform where most engineers would practice their coding problems. So yeah, let me refer to it as a coding problem for now. Why punish yourself with coding problems daily? So the first reason, job security, right? As you know, if you're able to do these kind of questions at a moment's notice, it leaves you in a better position when positions open up in the market, and also when positions close down, i.e. you get laid off, or someone does a soft layoff where they make the workday five days a week, as you've seen a couple of companies doing now. If you're always kind of prepared to take on a new role, it gives you kind of that security in terms of you'll be a bit more less anxious, less stressed, and also, yeah, I think you basically staying competitive, right? So that's one. That's number one. Number two, that is enhancing problem solving and also programming skills. Now, some of you say, now, boss, what do you mean? Like, we don't use coding problems at work. We don't do any of the stuff. I've never reversed a linked list at work. You might be correct. You might be correct in that. But I actually have, in some jobs, used some of the problems I've done. Some tree problems for sure. But even besides the point, even if you're not using some of these obscure algorithms and data structures that you're learning as part of your daily coding problems, I think one thing that's underrated massively is that the skills you pick up while doing this, especially if you're doing it in the right way. So these are skills such as breaking down complex problems into more manageable ones and more like using, especially when you go to, let's say we take Leetcode for example, if you go from like the medium and then even to the harder levels, a lot of the problems are basically just easy problems pieced together in different ways. And once you get to that point, and it's not just rote memorization, it can really help you in your normal job actually. And then on top of that, I guess when you're doing these kind of problems, you're usually thinking about efficiency. You're like, I want to get the most efficient time, or you're at least constantly, it's in the back of your mind, because usually in an interview you'd have to say like the big O complexity at the end, and same for memory. So solving these problems constantly will get you into that mindset of producing efficient code. And don't get me wrong, you don't always have to produce efficient code. Like I've got my share of slow running Python code still in the systems right now, but I think knowing how to make your code efficient, also versus like knowing how to do it and then not doing it because of another compromise is different to just not knowing how to do it at all. So that especially applies to people, junior people, getting into the habit of just whenever you're writing code, figuring out how this is going to scale by using the big O time complexity. And yeah, also on top of that, I'm not even writing these down, but so we've mentioned so far that breaking down problems, we've mentioned efficiency, time complexity, all that good stuff. I think as well, one thing that's definitely overlooked is when you're solving problems, you are inevitably going to come across an impasse where you either are working with bugs, you have managed to pass a lot of the test cases, but you're missing some of them. And I think this is a big part. I guess we can group it under the, what do you call it now? Debugging. We can group it under that, and it's kind of like searching for edge cases that might break your code, or debugging without using a debugger, because a lot of the time when you're doing these coding problems, it's not like you're in a fully fledged IDE, you're just coding away in the online editor. And yeah, even a lot of the time when I'm doing my prep specifically, I'm working through problems, like I'm running the code by hand, which is a common thing you would have had to do if you went to university and took like computer science or software engineering. But I know a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to do that. So learning how to do that, walking through the code step by step, marking out what the variables are at each time period, each time step, sorry. It's a very useful skill and super important. Even though you may not think of it now, because we've got all of these IDs with debugging, but some systems you can't use a debugger, and some systems trying to go to the good old classic print statement might not work. So sometimes you really just have to go through it by hand, like the good old days, the Dijkstras and the Turings, the edge cases, debugging. Another reason, keep your brain sharp, keep your brain smart, I feel like often you might not get challenged on these sorts of low-level thinking problems, especially as you I guess climb the rank of going from like a junior to senior. Less of your time might be focused on these sorts of, I guess, smaller programming tasks, and you're looking at a system, larger system as a whole. So just keeping your mind sharp with like some of the intricacies of the language or new features of the language, because sometimes I even like to try out new features of the language in some of these coding problems. So as soon as I hear about something, I might be like, next day, that's where I'm gonna give it a try. So I think keeping the brain sharp is definitely key. And to be honest, the last one, it's not really a point, but it is enjoyable when you get to a certain point. Let me preface that, because when you're struggling on twosome, it doesn't feel that enjoyable. But once you have gotten to the point where you can see a new problem and you can solve it quite quickly, no matter what level it is, it's really like a brain teaser, like doing Sudoku. I even remember like a couple flights now when I'm with my friends who also do engineering. Like, we're not watching movies, we're just, oftentimes you might just pull out a tablet and now we're just solving problems. I know it seems sad, but it actually can be super fun. And as an engineer, your love, your passion, your joy should be for, I guess, solving problems. And what better way to do it than with some of these daily coding problems? So that's the why, right? We've got that out of the way. Now, the how. How do I do it? I think this is a big question because a lot of people seem to struggle with consistency. And I'm here to tell you that you're not just lazy. You might be lazy actually, but you're not. That's not the only reason. Being consistent it comes down a lot to how you make it easier for yourself and how you structure your practice. How do you make it so that whenever you want to practice, or maybe even when you don't want to practice, it's still easy for you to practice. And I've been at the point as well when I've struggled to get a question out a day, and I've struggled to even find the motivation to do it. But I guess today I'm going to show you some very practical tips on how we can get past that. So first, why am I doing what? The first thing we're going to need to know about, or not that you need to know about it, but Atomic Habits. If you have read this book, a lot of what I'm about to say is going to make a lot of sense. It's really how I make some of my daily habits a lot more bearable and a lot more achievable. So let's go through, I guess, the 4 laws it says in this book. If you've not read it, I highly recommend it, because this isn't enough of a summary to really make it affect your life, but I'll try my best. So rule number 1, make it obvious. This is basically set up cues and set up your environment to make a habit very hard to ignore. I guess in the book it might give an example of a guitar. Like, if you want to practice guitar, leave a guitar literally laying in the walkway, so every time you walk past it you think, oh, I should practice. So that's one thing. And how I do that is with specifically a Chrome plugin, and I'll mention more about it. Actually, no, let me mention about it now. So I have a Chrome plugin called Leetcode Torture, and yes, the name does sound ridiculous, but I promise you, no, I can't even say it's not torture. It is torturous sometimes. But so this is what it's called. Leetcode. Well, it says Gulag there, but it is Leetcode Torture. It's a Chrome plugin, and what it does is it lets you force yourself to do a problem every time you come to your browser. Every day, basically. So let's say, let me give an example. So if I click on it, I can see today's question is hands of straights. So basically where these questions come from is it has these problem sets where you can choose from. I like to do Leetcode 150, but as you can see, there's many top curated sets here which you can choose from. You can choose what difficulty. I normally do all, but depending on your level, you can make this easy to start off with, and that's what I used to do. And then there's a few other options here. The key one here is disable the torture. So if I don't disable it, look what happens when I try and go to a new tab. Let's try go to Asda. And we've been redirected into this problem called Hand of Straights, it seems. Interesting. It's probably a tough problem. But basically, every morning when I'm coming to my computer, I literally have to solve a problem to get anywhere. Like to use my computer in any way, because most of what I do is on the internet. So yeah, that one right there has basically changed. If there's one thing to take away from this video, download that plugin. I'll put a link in the bio, but that can literally make solving a problem a day so much easier because you're kind of forced to do it. So yeah, that's one. Rule number one. Rule number two, make it attractive. And I guess this is basically increasing the appeal of a habit. I think some of the examples it uses in the book is like pairing, if you want to go gym, you set it so you do something you want to do with something that you need to do. So every time you go gym, you might say that that's the only time where you can, eat chocolate. Kind of counterproductive, but or maybe listen to music. So yeah, you pair them together, and it means that you're more likely to keep doing the habit. And in my case, what I'll often do is that coding is the only real time I get to listen to like my chill music. So a lot of R&B, neo soul, lo-fi beats, like the one playing in the background if you can hear it. Yeah, those are like my perfect times to do that. So yeah, it's always something I kind of look forward to. Like if I've got like an album that I want to listen to, I'll just play it while coding. Yeah, so that's rule number two. Rule number three, make it easy. This is basically, I guess, reducing friction, right? So let's say you have the initial impulse to want to go and do a daily, not even a daily problem, you have an impulse to do a coding problem. But now you have to think about all the things that you should do when you do a coding problem. You should find a good question. It's highly relevant and will also be able to be used in multiple super questions of that. You want to obviously find a place to do it if you're not using Leetcode. You want to find a site to do that. You want to do it, then record how you've done. Records like, was it easy for you? Was it hard? So next time you know, and if you want to do some sort of, spaced repetition practice, you can use your notes on that. I have some good recommendations for that actually, but that'll be a different video. So yeah, all of these things can make what could have been a 10-minute job, 20-minute job when you're fully set up and ready to go. It can turn it to 40 minutes, especially if you're not prepared and things aren't automated to the level that they could. Sorry, every time I look to the side, it's because I'm restarting the song. I've not figured out how to put it on loop yet. Is that it? Well, I hope so. Yeah, sorry. Where was I? Make it easy. So, yes, my ideal solution to this, this is one of the main things that got me, is throw as many Chrome plugins at the problem to automate it. So I'm going to take you through some of the ones I use. As you know, the first one, Leetcode Torture, game-changing. Look at that, 4.7 ratings. If you do not get this and you're struggling to be consistent, you're playing yourself. So that's the first one. Second one, Leetthink 2. God bless this man. God bless him. He's basically taken a plugin called Leetsync, and I guess that was deprecated, so he's made this Leetsync 2, which is basically a plugin for passing on the submissions you make to Leetcode and syncing it with your GitHub. So if you want to actually play around with the code, make more tests, make it into something a bit bigger, this plugin is for you. And I'll even show you, like if I go to my GitHub, your repository, hopefully this is going to show all my private ones, but oh, it's there. Coding practice leak sync. Did I miss it? Oh my goodness. This is why I had it off at the start of the session. As you can see, I've been redirected again by Leetcode Torture. So let me just disable the torture for now and go back. So if I go to this repo, you can see 57 commits, and you can see some of these questions that I've done. And if I was to go to the actual log graph, what I'd see, sorry, I might need to zoom in a bit. What you'd see is it'll give you a commit with like the time, memory, so you can even see how you got better over time. And the actual plugin itself, it gives you a streak, which is quite nice to gamify it. 2 days. All right, LeetSync, I highly recommend. Support him as well. I would support all of these guys because they're really helping us out here. And that one's not on the Chrome web store, but you can just download it, install it. If you get a virus, no, I'm joking, you won't get a virus. But if you did, I cannot be held liable for any damage. I need a disclaimer at the start of these videos, actually. Okay, the next one, Leetcode Difficulty Hider. This one right here is not necessary, but I like to make my practice as much like an interview as possible. So I like to hide the difficulty and I like to hide the acceptance rate. So I really don't know going into it. And as you know, as I said before, my Leetcode Torture is all problem levels. So I could go into something and then let's say I see a problem and I instantly think, oh, in fact, scratch that. Let's say I wasn't using this and I go into a problem and I wouldn't really, looking at it, I wouldn't be able to tell is this easy or hard, but because I now see the easy, I know it's not going to use certain things. I can kind of narrow it down. Like it's not going to be like a 2D dynamic programming problem, or it's not going to be some crazy graph or bit manipulation. Well, it could be bit manipulation, but I guess those are just signals that you can use to kind of make it easy for yourself. And in an interview, you wouldn't have that. So I think it's best to kind of emulate the interview process as much as possible. So which is why I use this particular plugin. Another one I recommend highly. And then another one to emulate an interview process. It's called Leetcode Syntax Highlighting. Another big one. So basically changes from, I don't know if you can see, but pretty highlight to absolute nonsense. Just how we like it. That's one. And then Leet Friends. This is one where I'll mention it more in one of the next rules, but it means I can follow my friends, I can see how they're doing, I can set alerts. If I look right now, you can see my other friends who are kind of doing a similar daily coding thing, daily coding problem. You can see my man is slacking 4 days ago. I should send him an alert. But yeah, so all these things, and you don't need to get those specific plugins, but I'm kind of showing you how you can automate some of this stuff to make it so that when you want to do a problem, it's literally just 20 minutes of your time, or 10 minutes if it's easy, or you know what I mean? Like it's not something that turns into an hour. And as engineers, we really want to automate everything that doesn't really make a difference. So there you go, some useful plugins for your head top. Number 4, make it satisfying. And on this one, this is basically like give yourself a reward, some instant gratification, so that it can kind of like, I guess, help you, make you want to do it more. And in my case, coding is an enjoyable thing, so I actually don't need a lot for this. But something also that is super helpful is I have an accountability group for this. So those people you see that are my Leet friends, those are people where they've agreed we want to get like 7 problems out a week. And if you fail to get 7 problems, you pay £10 for every problem that you didn't do. So if you did 3 problems, now you're paying £40 to the group. And if you do your 7 problems, you're taking home that prize. So that's like a nice reward at the end of the week. It's like, oh, just made £70, £80 from just doing Leetcode. Obviously, it means other people flopped, but we won't focus in on that. Yeah, so that's a super useful thing. And also here it says measure your progress. I guess if you use LeetSync, it's very easy to look at your Leetcode graph and see your submissions. Or if you just go to your page, sorry, I know I'm making this super Leetcode focused, but I'm sure there's these other tools for HackerRank and some of these other places. But choosing Leetcode in itself is like a critical decision, because you know there's going to be a lot of tools that will help you to automate stuff around it. Yeah, you can see I've had some down periods for sure. Birthday, holiday, don't know what happened in August. I think it was summertime, you know the vibes. But yes, I think is that the last one? Yeah, so that's basically what I'd say is the critical thing that have kind of made me be able to do this kind of daily coding problem. I've told you how and why you should do it. Now it's just up to you guys to take the mantle forward. Thanks again. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.